Hello everyone, welcome. It's Deb from Huckleberries at Huckleberries in the classroom.
Take two.
I'll be better this time though too. Okay, so we're talking about the Creative Grids, the 60-degree ruler. It's sort of a continuation from 2 or 3 years ago where I showed you border prints with the 60-degree ruler. I do have another border print here today, but I'm going to show you, you'll have to refer back to that video for the specifics of how to work with border prints. But in this video, I'm going to show you how I worked a couple of different ideas with this border print to make more use of the full print, and how we can also use strips to match this and work with it. Okay, so what I'm going to show you here is the border print. So it starts with this band, the red then the blue, and then you've got your animals, and it repeats. There's 5 strips. This one doesn't end the same way, so it kind of stops at the red. So I don't have the blue at the top. So what I was also looking at in that video, we talked about how you figure out where you want to have your cuts and how wide you want those strips to be, and they're going to be consistent. You've got 3 rows here that start the same way. These 2 rows start the same way, but if you look across, it's the same 4 characters. They're just offset by 2. So if you can't find one that you're going to use in one row, you might be able to use it from the other, as long as you have the same top or bottom. And I'll explain that right now. So what I did, if I look at my, okay, oops, got it upside down for you. Okay, the white numbers here is the width. And what I was doing was about 8 1/4 inches. Oops, so you can kind of see 8 1/4. So what I did is first I cut a straight across the bottom of the, okay, so I would have been, so you can see I had a little bit of white there, which is fine because when I sew my 1/4 inch, I don't have that. So that's coming up to about here. So I was cutting, okay, so cut along there first and then an even cut, and these are not printed straight. So you're always sort of fudging as you go along, okay? So you just try and get the best cut you can so that these points will be the same. To cut these, this is, you can see that's the 60-degree, and I would have done a 60-degree, then I could have turned and done another 60-degree, which I did, okay? But my strip was about, whoops, was down lower. Can you see the problem there? I can't get the animal in. So that was my issue, was like, okay, if I have the band at the bottom, that's not going to give me the animals, the top of the animal, if I'm cutting with the point at the top. This way would be different, right? I could get the wolf in there, but this way, I would be cutting him off. So I'm going to show you what I did to sort of make use of my other odd pieces. So I cut out the length of this, and I alternated the ruler on the 2 strips. So I cut 2 strips, and then I cut the second strip. Again, I would have cut off, done the 8 1/4 inches so that they were exactly the same. There's the bunny that I would have got from those ones, and the teal would have come from the top of this one because it wasn't white. Okay, so the white ones came from the bottom strip. That's why the teal would have been white there. Now it makes sense to me. See, it pays to do this twice. And you want to get a minimum, you want to try and get 6 repeats to get a full when we're putting them together. So this one, I'll just show you. I don't know that I've got actually 6 of that one, but this is
So cute.
Y. I might only have 5, which is fine. Whoops. And of course, when you're joining them, I would always be kind of fudging these to make sure they lined up. So you're doing a little bit of, depending how your cutting and measuring went. So I think I got 5 of these, which is fine, because if you saw in the other video, you can start a new one, turn the other way facing out, and have it go this way, which I'll fill in after. So you can get away with 5. 6 would give you a complete one on its own, and you could just do a little table topper. or placemat, I suppose. And then even add borders, if you wanted to add borders around to make that a little bit bigger, that would be really sweet on its own. Okay, so then what I did, I had after that, I had these owls and wolves that I'll show you. We're short. Okay. So that's what it looked like. Okay. So when I put my ruler on it, I couldn't use this now, right? I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? Because if I cut the 8 1/4, right? Can you see the problem there? I'm gonna lose, if I put the point up here, I lose the owl. That one, I mean, isn't too bad, but I'd still rather get more of the owl in the center. So after a bit of thinking, I thought, oh, all I have to do, so I just had a 2-inch strip. I sewed to the top, so you can see like that. Can you see how it's jagged? I had done these all as one chain, and I just gave enough room so I could cut them after. Not very nicely, it didn't matter. I just had to make sure I had room to do that. Okay, and then I took my ruler, and this is where you're deciding how much I want this to be. So actually on this one, can you see the line here, the 1.5 inch line? That's what I used for my guideline on that. And then I'm going to trim that off. So I'm actually cutting from this side. I want more of the owl. So if I move it over at all, can you see what happens? Then I start losing more of the scarf in that. So I thought that was my choice. You can choose whatever you like when you're doing these. It's up to you what you want to see. So my first cuts, I'm going to take that away. I'm going to take the tip, and I can just go to the tip and push, and that will actually cut with a sharp blade. And that side, I should be, look at that. But now I'm not at 8 1/4 inches, right? It's looking like 9 1/2 almost. So that's when I would do that to all of them. Okay, and then you can see this one got trimmed to the 8 1/4. Now, if I was just using the owls like this and just putting them in a table topper, I could just leave them all that length. It wouldn't matter. I'm just working, if I'm working them all together in a quilt or a project, then I do want them all to be that same width this way. So I would put this is an 8 1/2 inch ruler. So I'm going to actually take the tip, and it's kind of actually on this one, it's gripped. It's the grippy stuff that's shadowed. So I just have to do that. And I know I'm at 8 1/2. I do kind of want to look at my line here, and it's pretty good along there. So you have to remember my seam is going to be straighter than the printed line on the fabric. Imagine that. Okay, and that's what I would take away. And then all my owls would look like that. And you wouldn't know that you added that on. This wasn't even in the same line of fabric. It's pretty cool. So that's what I started and brought down. But again, if I was just doing 6 of them together, I wouldn't even have to trim that off. So that would work as well. So just showing you ideas. The same thing would work if I needed to add to the bottom of a triangle. I could add strips to the bottom, all the same, on the bottom of all the same triangle faces, and trim those to the same size that I needed. So just a way that you're not going to lose all your animals. So I thought once I'm done mine, we'll see how much I can salvage. What I also wanted to show, so this wolf was done exactly the same way as the owl. You can see I added onto the top, I trimmed on this side first, and then I trimmed the bottom off in exactly the same way. And so that's what I've got left. And you're going to have, when you're cutting these, like I can't get a full width out of this, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm gonna have to add to the top, but if I was putting this down, so I would have to add to the top, but what else do I need to do? I need to add to the side. So on your strips, you've got these pieces left over from edges, so this owl will get cut out. This is gonna work. See, so I'm using actually more of my fabric this way. So this one would get cut, oops, around there. I've got this piece. These are the two pieces that actually go together. Can you see how if I overlap them? So what I would do is I would piece these together, and then I could now, and then I would actually, then I also, once I piece those together, I'm going to add another piece to the top, I don't know, here, like that, so that I can get my full triangle. So that's one way to use, this was at the very start of a row. So instead of losing it, I'm actually adding it to a triangle. So just showing you little tips on how you can actually even use more of your border prints. So that was the border print part. The other part I talked about in the last video was showing you how to use fabric strip sets, creating your own border print. So that was my strip set here. So I've got the two snowflakes, and I've got the teal, and I've got the red polka dot. Now, I figured out the math. So if you've got books like Joanne and I do, this is what you're doing. So I've actually highlighted the two strip sets that I worked on. So I wrote 2, 1.5, 3 1/4, 1.5, and 2. So I actually did same on both sides. The reason I would do that, and I'll show you why, is when I cut this way or that way, they're identical. So I don't need to be thinking. Now, if you don't,
Smart.
yeah, if you want to do more strip sets, that's fine, but you don't have to do, so from one full strip set, which I'm saying that means full width strips, okay? So each of these was a full width strip. I can get one full hexagon created. But having said that, I did a couple other strip sets, and when I was cutting them and measuring them, because I did all my math, so I had 1, 2, 3, 4 seams, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. That's 2 inches that I took away from all of those added up together. So I wrote 10 1/4 minus 2 is 8 1/4, which was what my other blocks were, because I want to insert these and use them all together.
Oh,
I did find the thread. I used Metler thread, and then I used my Aurifil. Well, Aurifil is a 50 weight 2-ply. Metler is a 3-ply. It definitely makes a difference. It takes up more space in your seam. It was crazy, and I wouldn't have believed it as much until I did it. But when you've got multiple seams, that's when it adds up. So my additional tip would be add 1/4 inch more than you need. And then what you can do is measure your strip set, because you're going to see here, I know I wasn't full on the, so I was supposed to be to 8 1/4, and you see how narrow that got on me, depending where I ironed to. Some of them were okay. On my other sets, I was really close to the 8 1/4, but I thought, oh, it would have been way easier, have more, and then trim either side of each strip set so they do stay the same. So that was a tip after the fact of doing it. So you can see these are, so from the strip sets, you're just getting multiple, they're the same. So they get cut, right, back and forth, but look, they're identical. So then I can take, if I wanted to do something like this, I could take this one, and this is where I said where you can insert them. And then I continue, so this one comes out of this. And if you're using the same colors from your border print, you can actually get a little quilt done, which hopefully will be what happens here. Okay, so that's, I only needed to use 5 in that one. Okay?
Nice.
Now, I've got a lot of laying out to do, so I got to figure out which way I go with my other ones, but that's just giving you an idea of how you can build those. I could also have another one here and build it the other way where I switch them around. But refer back to the other video because we did layouts of that. I'm just showing you how you can get blocks that aren't border prints that look like a border print. But by duplicating it, so going an A, B, C, B, A pattern, that it's the same forward and backwards, okay? So I was able to get, with the 8 1/4 inch, I got 7 actually of the triangles cut, so that measurement worked out really well. I could get one whole hexagon from a strip. So this strip set was another A, B, C, D, C, B, A. So it's still repeating, but I've used more strips. And so that's what they look like. And again, they're colors that I chose that I thought would look really good. I haven't laid this out yet, so you're seeing this for the first time, or I'm seeing it with you at the same time. Isn't that pretty? Oh. And it looks pretty nice with these blocks, right?
Really nice.
So picking out those colors. Now that was doing the red on that right there. I've got another strip set. Where I did, okay, so I did the red where the teal is. So I kept the snowflakes and the stars in the same spots. I switched out the reds and the teals. So these blocks look like, they'll look like that. And then one more way you can do this would be really random. So this was more planned, so that I could have multiples of the same. Then I did another one where I just had random strip widths cut. Okay, I didn't plan any, and so I sewed them together. And again, I just kept going until I was sort of done. This strip here was a leftover from the center of my whole panel. I had a chunk that I had to cut out. So I just threw that in there. So if I measure, okay, you can see that my strip width is wider than I need it, right? So what I would do is, so if I want 8 1/4, I probably want to get more of the red in. I can see it's sort of wobbly out there. So I'm probably going to want to trim on that side, but I'll decide to. And I'm probably going to try and use a seam. Now, because I've got so many seams going on, probably not the best example to show you guys, but I just want to show you what I would probably do. Oh, that's way out there. I would probably re-iron this, or I'm going to start at the other end, actually. Oh, that's a bit better. Okay. So I'm going to scoot that over. Now how much, this would be my big part, is how much of the red could I get in there as wide as possible. So I might do that, okay? So I'm going to cut, it's going to be 8 1/4. Remember this was an 8 1/2 inch ruler. So I would probably be trimming that. And I'm just going to go, yeah, I'll trim this first and then I'll go back and cut a 1/4 inch off just because it's easier. And I'm going backwards. Don't do what I'm doing. I'm just trying to show you. That was the 8 1/2. And then I'm going to take away a 1/4 inch on the other side. Or I could just leave this, and if I wasn't going to use it in the same project, but I'm going to. So I'm going to put my line here on my last cut line and then just trim that. And I'll do the rest at home. I'm just going to show you how I'm going to start that cutting. Back to your 60-degree. It doesn't matter. Oops, where's my grab that way? That sticker's fooling me, Joanne. Okay, 8 1/4. So I'm going to trim that. That is extras, so not sure that I'll use it at all. Okay. And I can only do the one more cut, but you'll get to see how they play together. Okay, pull that away. And I'm going to get on this side here. Can I get through it? Okay. So now these are going to be different though. Can you see if I go to put them together? Unlike the other ones, they're not going to match. So what would happen is this one would be matched. I'm not going to cut it, but I'm going to show you. Can you see that? How those would all match? and then the next ones. Now, if I'm going to get 7 of these from a strip though, I have to make 2 strip sets. 14, I could do a 6. Yeah, you could get, but you're not going, yeah, you need to do 2 strip sets when you do this sort of idea where you just do multiple strips, different, no pattern, not the A, B, C, B, A pattern. But I don't suppose there would be anything wrong with alternating the 3 different ones as well. It would just be a different look. So you wouldn't get that symmetrical look or the identical look, right? So that you're piecing them together, it would be quite different. But if I put them like that, whoops, that's the wrong one. So that means now I have to cut the same widths of fabric. So when you're doing this, you want to write down the widths you had and how you use that. And then this one actually was trimmed down. So make it longer, but write down where your measurement was from the seam out. So just make notes on those things. So I'm going to have lots from the 2 meters, and I had a 1/4 meter each of these colors is what I worked with to play that match the border prints. So we'll see how, I think I can get a decent sized quilt out of it. So hopefully you'll see that up soon. Thanks everyone. Hope you got some more ideas on how to use the Creative Grid 60-degree ruler.